So I'm Paul Comfort. I am Vice President of Business Development with Trapeze Group, the world's largest transit technology company. And I also am author of this book over my shoulder, The Future of Public Transportation, which came out in March and went to #1 on Amazon. Been in the business for over 30 years. Most recently was the CEO of the MTA in Baltimore. And now I'm a transit evangelist and get to talk about transit all the time. And so today I want to talk about public transportation's future. And I'm going to share with you a little bit from my book, The Future of Public Transportation. And hopefully you'll be able to see it in just a second. Let me know, folks, if you can. I think that's good. Hopefully you can see that up on the screen. Yeah, I think you can. So it's funny. I want to start out a little bit different than I planned to because I was out. So I've got, my family has a pool in the backyard. And this weekend I was out working on the pool and I noticed that the pressure of the pool was really low, like was hardly putting any water out. I went over and looked at the pump and the pump's pressure was way high. It's kind of an anomaly. When the pressure goes high on the pump, not enough water gets out, doesn't circulate the water and the chemicals. So I looked and it was like 12 points higher than it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be 17. It was like 29. I was like, what in the world's going on? So I called the pool people. They're like, you're going to have to backwash the system. I just backwashed it a month ago. So I said, well, I guess I have to do it again. It's a big process. You have to put a hose on and all this. So I did all that. And normally when you do it and I put it on backwash, you get like the white, all the powder that's in it, flushes out because you're back flushing the clog, whatever's clogging it up. But I didn't see it. So I went back. It was just clear water. So I went back and put it back to normal. And the pressure came down to where it was supposed to be, like 17, 18. And it's still good this morning. I just went for a swim before I'm talking to you, and it was great. And it just got me thinking, sometimes there's a clog in the system and you just need to back flush it for a minute and then put it back to normal and you can get the pressure back where it's going to be and everything gets flowing the way it's supposed to be again. Kind of a picture of our transit systems. We had a 5-year trend where ridership was going down. And just in the last year or so, we kind of turned the corner through doing some of the things I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But then the COVID-19 crisis came and hit us and gave us a gut punch. And I think what we need to do basically is take this as an opportunity to backwash some of the stuff that we didn't need to be doing and then put it back where it needs to be. As my friend Lauren Skyver, the CEO of Sunline Transit, likes to say, we need to stop selling what people aren't buying. And, I've talked to a number of CEOs. I also am host of world's #1 transit podcast where we interview CEOs. It's called Transit Unplugged. I've interviewed about 80 CEOs over the last 2.5 years on the show. And several of them have told me lately that they're using this crisis as an opportunity to do things that they feel like they probably should have done for a long time. Some of them have moved from paper schedules to all online schedules, which would have taken a lot of public hearings and all that, and a lot of process, but they've been able to just go to online. Others have moved away from cash and more toward e-faring and a quick push. Others have done other types of things that they've been waiting to do, and they haven't had the time to do it or haven't had the processes in place to do it, such as changing routes. A lot of folks were in the middle of a route reboot. We did it in Baltimore. It's called Baltimore Link. Houston, Tom Lambert started it, and it's really been one of the keys to getting transit systems rebooted. And so I want to talk to you today about what was in my book, The Future of Public Transportation. And these are things that me and 40 of my friends who are CEOs in the transit systems, people like, MJ Maynard in Vegas and others, have put out there that now more than ever we need to do in order to kind of reset, like the pool, what we're doing. Briefly, use this opportunity, this brief opportunity in time, in the continuity of time, to reset what we're doing and come back stronger than ever. I also feel like we need to make sure our young people, our children, get a taste of what public transportation is about. My wife and I have 6 children. I have 5 grandchildren, 1 more on the way. And I want them to see. So I came up with this book, The Public Transportation from the Tom Thumb Railroad, the Hyperloop and Beyond. It's a picture book. It's here's the author's copy. It's got all kinds of great pictures in it for kids to see, what is the future of public transportation? What is it now? Autonomous vehicles. This is the kind of stuff we need to be telling our children about to help reset their orientation. Some of their orientation toward public transportation may have been tainted during this time as politicians, and I'm a former recovering politician. I'm a elected county commissioner and a county administrator, and a lot of them said, don't get on transit. It's a petri dish. So I'm going to talk for germs. I'm going to talk more about tomorrow some of these items They've just given me another slot tomorrow morning. So come back tomorrow if you want to hear more about how to future-proof your transit system. But today I want to talk about some of the things that were in my book, The Future of Public Transportation, and what we need to do next to reset and get back stronger than ever. So on the paratransit side, which is a passion of mine, I started out at the Department of Aging, running their transportation system, and for 5 years was in charge of the day-to-day management of Washington, D.C. WMATA's paratransit system through a contract with MV Transportation, where I was director of operations there. So we were able to serve 10,000 people a day, the fourth largest paratransit system in the nation, and we were able to get our on-time performance up to over 92%, our AFR accident frequency rate, to the standard of only 2 preventable accidents per 100,000 miles. We held that for a couple of years, and we did it through using all kinds of methodologies. I really care about making sure people with disabilities get the best transportation possible. Here's what people are doing now, next. Microtransit is really lifting its head. You may have seen that in Washington, D.C., when the transit system cut back some hours during COVID, people like VIA stepped up and said, they did a contract with the city to provide microtransit for nurses and medical workers at Howard University Hospital, others, where it would triangulate your location. You go out and stand there, and the vehicle would pick you up and your other people on your shift and take you in. Microtransit's finding a new niche now. Contracted transportation, the big companies. You may be aware that I'm executive director of a new group called the North American Transit Alliance, which is the big companies: First Transit, Transdev, MV, Keolis, National Express, and RATP DAV. Those 6 big companies have formed an industry association. They work on contracting out transportation now more than ever, as people in cities across America are saying, we're going to have to cut back routes. We can't afford them all. Now's a way to reset and say, maybe we should outsource some of our fixed route services to these private companies that do it all over the world, all over Europe, do an amazing job, and do it for less cost. Taxi cab, the usage of them, transportation networking companies. We know what's going on in California with them right now. App reservations, so people can book their trips on an app. Going to the cloud. A lot of the software now is moving everything to the cloud on the reservations, dispatch, and scheduling. AI reservations. Have you heard about this? I mean, you may have already interacted with it when you call a hotel or someone else, where an artificial intelligence robot speaks to you at first to kind of help figure out where you're going to go and what you're going to do. We can do the same thing for reservations. We can triage the reservation as it comes in before it goes to a person. Optimize schedules, self-optimization, using sedans, coordinated service, adult daycares, departments of aging, coordinating with the ADA service, door-through-door service. Friends of mine that are running services across the country, like Silver Ride in San Francisco and other cities, where they're actually providing extra service for dialysis patients, et cetera. That's what's coming next, I believe, in paratransit. And the contractor's role is also to bring in expertise to run autonomous vehicles, mobility as a service, multimodal. They're subbing out to TNCs, they're on-demand, IT management. These are all some of the things that are next for that. On the safety side, I was in Australia last year talking about asset management to all the asset managers for the Australian transit systems. And we talked about some big things happening. Everyone's moving to the new standard, ISO 55000. The Internet of Things are allowing telematics, integrated buildings and equipment, data-driven decisions. My friend Tim at MTA in Baltimore, where I used to be CEO, is really taking the lead on this, SMS, data-driven decisions. And even what eAlerts is doing, where they're doing public hazard reporting by smartphone. These are great ideas that people are doing to do practical improvements for safety that we talk about in the book. And then on the maintenance side, man, have we moved away from the era of the shade tree mechanic, right? I mean, these new vehicles, autonomous vehicles, driver telematics, cameras, onboard diagnostics, contactless pay systems, onboard Wi-Fi, and zero-emission buses. Really, the technician of tomorrow may be more of an IT guy or gal than the traditional diesel mechanic, right? And this AI scheduled maintenance is so awesome. We talk about it in the book quite a bit, the chapter in about it, where we're using, in my career over the last 33 years, it's always been the A, B, and C maintenance schedule, right? So you got the A every 5,000 miles, the B every 15, and maybe once a year, the big C maintenance. Well, now they got artificial intelligence scheduled maintenance, where GPS tracking data, current driver behavior, and historical data, the algorithms there determine when a bus should actually come in for maintenance. So you're getting it right on time. It can say, like, hey, if the temperature of the engine reaches this temperature, it's going to break down within 15 minutes. So you need to shut the vehicle off and those kind of things. So now, here's a big one I wanted to talk about. Ridership, the silver bullets. I've got 5 minutes left. I'm going to try to get through this in a couple of the slides for you. And then again, tune in tomorrow morning where I get into the COVID-19 recovery stuff. There's a lot going on there, man. I could go into that for a long time, and I'm going to tomorrow. I think I got a half hour tomorrow. This is what Tom Lambert taught us, Seattle taught us, Columbus, Baltimore, all these cities. A lot of them have seen an increase in ridership. Remember, in 2018, 7 cities in the top 35 in the U.S. saw an increase in ridership. And in 2019, we even saw New York and Washington start leading that effort. Here's what they did. I analyzed it. I talked to their executives. They did 3 things. 1, 2, or all 3. They rebooted their bus network. They focused on jobs and population shifts. We need to do the same thing. We need to take whatever the new ridership data is and transfer that into new routes coming out of COVID. We need to increase the frequency on key routes, which means you have to do headway management instead of time point management. So that just means the buses run like a train. Every 10 to 15 minutes, in Baltimore, we called it CityLink. We had 12 color-coded routes that were on a pulse system, and every 15 minutes, and they interconnected with a light rail and the subway system and each other. All of them did. And so it allowed people to not have to use a schedule anymore. Nobody wants to wait. You don't even want to wait in a grocery store, right? More than 1 or 2 people in front of you, you get upset. People don't want to wait at a bus stop. They need to know where the bus is at, and they need to know that it's coming on a regular basis and a high frequency. And then we need to reduce the friction. Anything that slows the speed of the bus down. Visa did a study. They shared it with me in preparation for the book, where they saw that one of the biggest complaints people had was that the bus is just moving too slow. I could walk or jog faster than it in the central business district. So bus-only lanes, transit signal priority, e-faring. Rail, we're going to skip this. I'll talk about that more another time. Mobility trends. These are the 4 big trends I wanted to get out to you today. Curb and street management is happening. Bikes are up, scooters are down because people that use scooters in downtowns aren't downtowns right now because of COVID, though they are returning. Bus-only lanes, transit signal priority, car-free city centers, congestion charging, bus rapid transit. These are all big items that are trends going out of the second half of 2020 into 2021. On the technology side, you've got to increase your technology. When I got to Baltimore MTA, I felt like all the technology was stuck in the 1980s. And I think a lot of our major transit systems are still there or in the 90s. You need to get the 21st century technology going. Microtransit, autonomous vehicles, mobile fare payment, wearables, PTC, first and last mile solutions, mobility as a service, smart infrastructure, 5G, improve the guts of your system so that you can, the IT backdrop, the back office software as they call it, contactless fares, zero fares, cash free, and of course, zero emission buses. All big, electric, CNG, hydrogen. And one more thing. I wrote a chapter in my book called One More Thing. As I was editing these 40 chapters, I kept thinking, oh, there's one more thing I want to talk about. And so this is some of what's in that. Workforce development, we've already talked about that. We really need to work with our unions to improve the skill sets of our drivers, of our mechanics. Their functions are changing, as I talked about. We need to make sure that also transit becomes a tool to make sure that no one is left behind, that we have equity in our systems, that we serve the communities equitably, and that our own employees, no matter what their background, race or gender, whatever, have an opportunity to grow in leadership in our systems. P3s are still a big thing. Design, build, operate, and maintain, and now finance has stepped in. And then I think what's coming next is shared air travel. Uber Air, manned drones are already being used. Can't wait for that to come our way soon. Tomorrow we'll talk about top 10 ways to future-proof your transit system. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. Take a look at my website, thefutureofpublictransportation.com, for all updated information about my books, my podcast, Transit Unplugged, if you don't get a chance, or email me if you want to talk or you have any questions. I'm always happy to talk and do this same talk for your transit agency for free or a similar one. Thanks, Alan.